This is Lewis Lott for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and William Hill. Delighted to be joined by Shane Watson. How's things, mate? How's everything been?
All good, mate. Currently in the SJAM headquarters. Well, it's actually Adam's office that he has for his law firm, Brandsmiths, but we occasionally work in as well. We've got a few of the squad in here, Jess and Harry. So that's Jess, the PA of SJAM, also works very close to Joe. Harry doesn't actually do anything, but pretends he does all the time. But yeah, it's a little bit of the squad.
Shout out, mate. Yeah, absolutely, mate. Well, we're going to move into a busy next week for you. We've got two of your talents fighting in Tommy Fletcher and Johnny Fisher. How do you sort of deal with that sort of week when you've got sort of multiple clients and multiple fighters on the card, on different cards?
I'm not really. I'm just going to let them get with it and do it themselves. No, I'm joking. You know what? It's easy. It's not too far apart. We've got a big team, so Tommy will have Jess and Harry in the hotel with them, slightly better looking versions of me and Adam, so they're quite lucky. So so they will spend a lot of time with him, and we will still go to the weigh-in and that and check in on them, because luckily where the days are a day apart, the weigh-in's a day before Johnny's, and the fight's a day before Johnny's, so it doesn't clash at the most important parts. So which is good, which works. It's good that they're not on the same days. And they're just going to be doing a lot of troop hopping, probably a lot of Ubering as well. But yeah, we'll be back with the forward. But yeah, it's fairly easy. I mean, 6-rounder and 8-rounder, yeah, it'll be all right.
100%. Well, we'll sort of start off with Johnny. You know, this year's a big year for him. He's always keeping active and you're back out sort of again. How are you sort of looking to maneuver Johnny this year? Because he's started to, for me, where I've seen a lot of more people start to call his name. A lot of sort of contenders around his level start to call his name. So how do you sort of plan on maneuvering Johnny from 8-rounders to then 10-rounders to then potentially titles?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to tempt fate and stuff like that, but the plan is, because managers and teams always plan ahead, but Johnny's focus is to beat the man in front of him. He's a tough southpaw, by the way. He beat Nkosi Solomon, who was Golden Gloves champion in the US, who was meant to be the next big thing of American boxing, and he beat him. So he beat him comfortably. So it's not an easy test, despite people looking at your record and making assumptions. He's a good fighter, but I think after this one, it's important that Johnny goes for a title. I think some kind of title will be good for him. I think he's actually will be better as the rounds go on, as I've seen in sparring. Obviously, we haven't had to see it in the ring yet because he can stop people fairly quickly. Apart from Nguema, that went 6th round. But yeah, I think he's just ready for the bigger nights. Potentially headliner next gen at some point would be nice. We haven't discussed that or anything, but I think it'd be nice down the line to do. So yeah, I think he's just ready for it now. He'll be 9-0 after this fight. God willing, he wins the fight and comes through unscathed. And I think that's the right time to start looking at titles, really. He's done his apprenticeship to some extent, and it's now starting to look at the bigger and better nights for him.
Is it hard sort of not to sort of fast track him in a way? Because he's someone that he's massive sort of outside of boxing. He's such a big star and he sells so many tickets. People are going to want to see him sort of get challenged already. And, you know, people don't always want, I know they're not knockovers, but they're getting treated like knockovers. So is it hard sort of to, you know, sometimes take it as it comes and not listen to people who say, you know, I want to get him pushed because he's got such a high profile?
I don't find it hard as such. I mean, obviously TV wise, they always want you to be in the hardest and best possible fights. But you've always got, with people like Johnny, he isn't Olympian. He isn't an elite level amateur. He wasn't an international. He had a handful of amateur fights as a whole. So you kind of got to go from square one with him and move him up. And we've gone up a few squares. He's good. He's been sparring some of the best talent in world boxing and more than handling his own. He's looked great in the ring so far. He's just in that period where he's transitioning what he does in sparring. If you saw Johnny spar, you'd be like, bloody hell, he's ready for big, big fights now. But it's about getting the experience and transitioning what he does in sparring into the ring. And he's showing a bit more every time. So we'll get there. And he's looking really good and he's so dedicated as well. So, yeah, I don't find it that hard because we're not trying to get him to fight Fabio Wardley now. I mean, it might be a fight in the future, but we're not trying to get him to fight Fabio Wardley now. We're not trying to get him to fight Derek Chisora and whatnot now. Like, we just know that it's not realistic right now. And I mean, he knows he's very honest with himself where he's at as well. Very honest
Yeah.
man. And Mark Tibbs knows that too. So yeah, no, I just think he's ready for, like Harry Armstrongs of the world, or the Taron Willett. He's a heavyweight who's 7-0.
Yeah.
Just those kind of guys. He's ready for. He could beat them now, but we've got another 8-rounder in. It's important. He's only had one 8-rounder, so, and it didn't go very long either. Would it go 4? So get another 8-rounder in, because we're not in a rush. The problem is,
Yeah.
where fighters do make mistakes, once you go up, you can't go back down. So if he is a 10 and he wasn't fit enough 10, you can't just go back to doing 6s
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Like, that's when there's no rush to go straight up there. Johnny earns a lot of money. He trains very hard. He's got a great support system. And a lot of them won't even know who their opponents are anyway, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
They're not boxing hardcore fans. They just support Johnny because they want to get behind a local lad, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, but no, it'd be steady. We see how we get some of his next fights. A southpaw. He's only ever fought one before, and this one's a by far better one. So we see how he gets on. But I would like to see him in a title fight before the end of the year.
Yeah. It's only just because I say this, because obviously, like, I'm sure you see it as well. And I spoke to Johnny about this before, but the heavyweight division as a whole, especially coming up, you've got guys like, Johnny, Matty Harris, Moses Atalma, Adelaide, guys like that, I could list off so many names to you now. And Johnny's sort of starting to get called out. Obviously, Matty Harris has called him out. Guys like Thomas Carter has called him out. And I said to Johnny, I was like, I don't know if you share this same opinion, but it's like, you're both coming up. What would be the point in fighting each other and just taking a loss early?
Yeah.
Do you sort of have that same opinion?
No, of course. And the thing is, people call Johnny out for many reasons. Number one, he's got a massive name compared to them.
Yeah.
Like, again, without being disrespectful to Matty Harris, I like Matty Harris, got a good relationship with him, and Thomas Carty as well, a lovely guy, good relationship with him. But they gain a lot more from shouting Johnny's name out than what Johnny gets from shouting their name out.
And they know that, though. They know
Matty
that.
Harris, Matty Harris, if he had any intention of stepping up, he would have actually fought someone that's got a pulse. But he hasn't. That's a fact. And Matty Harris is a very good fighter, very good. I've seen him spar. I've seen him fight. I like his attitude in a way, but no nonsense. I think, and that's why I don't know why he hasn't stepped up a bit better, because he's definitely good enough. Very good fighter.
Yeah.
And he can punch as well. So, but yeah, like, Johnny was fighting harder people on his debut with no amateur background than what Harris has fought in his whole career, and that's just a fact. The board wouldn't have approved who Matty Harris fought.
Yeah.
I've tried with similar level before, even early on. They said no, so they wouldn't even approve it. So he's a bit far off of that, Matty, but he's a very good fighter though, very, very good. And Thomas Carty, a lovely guy, really good fighter, good win the other night as well. But again, like, Johnny wouldn't get paid any more than what he already gets to fight these guys.
Yeah.
But in the future, that could be a big fight.
Yeah.
I'm not against it, but we're certainly not going to Ireland to fight Thomas Carty when Johnny Fisher is the A side by far.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to pay A and B sides this early on, because it's almost a bit pathetic. But there's just no sense for Johnny, who's created a big name for himself, does a lot of tickets, a lot of popularity. Why would we go and fight Thomas Carty in Ireland for nothing? It makes no sense. And I think Thomas even said that actually in the interview as well. He's a good, honest guy as well. He's got a good team around him. But one day, listen, they're all well, okay. Matty Harris isn't Matchroom heavyweight, but Thomas Carty would be associated with Matchroom. I don't know if he's actually got a deal there, but listen, they're all going to happen one day. They're all going to fight, because sorry, not Tommy. Oh yeah, no, Thomas Carty, like Johnny, maybe Dave Allen. The only one I hope Johnny doesn't fight is Sol Dacres. That would be a bit awkward. But
I was going
to get on. I know, yeah, it's a bit like, what corners do I go by? But yeah, like, they're all going to end up fighting each other one day. So it's got to take time. Like, I want to give Johnny the best possible chance of earning loads of money. So he doesn't have to think about money again. Best possible chance to be a champion of Britain, champion of Europe, and maybe even champion of the world. Like, he ain't ready to do that yet, but he will be if he gets looked after properly and he keeps working hard in the gym, which he will, and gets match made correctly. Like, there's too many fighters that I see these days that take stupid fights early on, and then people just forget about you and they don't care about you anymore. So Johnny will take him when he's ready. But listen, we're closer than what we are a while ago. So like I said, he'll be fighting for a title for the end of the year, and then you start stepping him up gradually from there.
100%. And you just mentioned another heavyweight there, someone that does hold a title, Sol Dacres. Wanted to sort of touch on him a little bit. Many people probably thought he was sort of unfairly snubbed for the British title now. That sort of picture with the British title is up in the air. Could we potentially be looking at sort of Sol Dacres in prime position for a British title shot?
I mean, obviously, in an ideal world, that's what we would like. Unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world, and boxing's always far from an ideal world. But I don't really want to say too much on Seoul because it's a bit of an awkward situation that's going on at the moment. It's nothing horrible, nothing negative at all, actually. There's just a lot in play for him at the moment. So I wouldn't want to, piss anyone off, which I seem to make a habit of doing, or upset anyone. So I'll just leave that there on that one. But Seoul's ready. He's fit. He's ready to go now. He'll have some big fights this year, adding more titles. Um, I like the thought of like a Commonwealth title as well because apparently Parker didn't actually win the Commonwealth title on the weekend, even though he had this Commonwealth title fight. I messaged him about it and he said he wasn't actually sure. Okay.
He'll be sticking it on you again, mate.
I know. I actually said that to him after. He said, "No, we're brothers now. It's all good." I was like, oh, thank God. I don't need my knees going again. But no. But yeah, like just any title now for Seoul. I think really he's won the English. And English, as much as it's a good belt to win and it's a respected belt, Seoul's got bigger aspirations to go forward with his career. So just bigger and better nights for Seoul, really.
Definitely. And another guy I want to talk about who definitely can punch is Tommy Fletcher. Obviously back out sort of next week. Someone that can definitely punch it. He's obviously had his name called out as well, where he thinks that he's top of the cruiserweights of Queensbury. Another guy trying to maneuver Tommy, you said, because he's fighting guys, he's just knocking them over. Do you find it sometimes hard to match make him sometimes, and when he's just cleaning these guys out?
Well, the problem is actually getting people to fight him more than anything. The last one, that's why we had to end up with Daryl Sharp. No one wants to fight Daryl Sharp because you could hit that geezer with a 20-ton truck. He ain't going anywhere. So, like, he's just a very, very tough man. Knows how to get around the ring. Knows how to avoid getting caught clean. Knows how to hold. It's just a nightmare to fight, really. But we've got a bit of a better opponent for him now, which I think would suit Tommy's style a bit better. But again, he's only fighting 6 rounders, so it's hard to step up in a 6 rounder. Like, who's good that's even going to fight you in a 6 rounder for 6 rounder money? They're not getting paid loads of money. So, and with the risk of getting knocked out as well, So, yeah, not really. I mean, he will get stepped up next year. I think he'll have an 8 rounder before the end of the year, I would have thought. And then we'll start maybe looking to push him on a bit more in springtime.
Okay. And obviously I sort of talked about with Tommy, him and sort of Alois Jr. are getting a bit of a back and forth. When you look at that when you look at that from sort of your fight, is it good to sort of get his name in the hat already and this narrative potentially being built up for a massive fight in the future?
Listen, there's no harm in having rivalries. That's what makes money in the sport, and that's what we want to see, especially when they're both massive punchers. Without a doubt, when that fight happens, if it does happen, which I hope it does, hopefully for like a British and Commonwealth kind of title, it could be like their Joyce Dubois moment, couldn't it, for the cruiserweights coming through? Someone's getting knocked out, aren't they? Because they both punch too hard to be going to points. So it's a good fight. Listen, I've seen them spar many a time, and sometimes Alois gets the better of Tommy. Sometimes Tommy gets the better of Alois. They spar so much. I know Alois put about 8 seconds clip up. I mean, they didn't spar for 8 seconds. Let me tell you that. So that people then just make assumptions on it. But when you spar that many times, it'd be very rare that someone would be battering someone the whole time because the other guy wouldn't just come back to sparring with you. So they're both decent amateurs. They both had a good start in the pros. Well, I mean, Alois did lose his debut, but I mean, he shouldn't have even been fighting that guy, and he gave a good count himself on that too. And he's since then linked up with Ben Davison. He's looking good. So, but down the line, that's a great fight. It's a great fight. And I like Alois a lot. He's a very talented fighter. That's why it needs to be right when they do fight. And Alois actually said that in an interview. He's got the same one. So you don't want to be fighting Tommy Fletcher for peanuts, do you? For either man, because they're one shot away, either of them, from potential disaster. So you want to get paid properly.
That's what I think you said it in my interview, actually. Yeah.
And if you want it to be a grudge match, you need people to actually know who you are to get the audience, get the money to make it worth it and whatnot. So then, listen, then making people aware because they're knocking people out and they're fighting on BT, which is a massive platform. But you need to build them, and then so that's still about. We still look at another 3 years away, I think, realistically.
100%, definitely. We'll sort of go on to the big topic that came out sort of a couple of weeks ago of Joe Joyce activating his rematch clause against Zhilei Zhang. How sort of when did you decide to make this decision, and when was this sort of? Do you feel like this is the right decision to be made?
It was the night of the fight. There's no question. We did. Obviously, we didn't literally activate it that night because Joe had more important things to worry about, like being in hospital and getting things looked over and making sure he was safe and well. But then I gave him a couple of days. I let him know that I was around if he wanted to speak, but I gave him a couple of days to just spend time with family, and they've got a big family. And then we came to a discussion, and all Joe could talk about was rematch and Zhang. We did present him with a few other options, but the man that Joe is, and that's not saying that we wanted to, but it's always important to give options, so he's got a choice. But the man that Joe is, all he wanted was a rematch, and he wants to put the wrong right. And Joe, since the debut of his career, has shown that he only wants the biggest and best test. He doesn't wait around. He doesn't mess around. He doesn't say he's going to fight people and don't fight them, like certain other heavyweights that get fights ordered and whatnot, and then don't actually fight. But and like certain world champions that scream and shout they want to fight everyone, but don't actually sign to fight anyone. You know, Joe said from the debut he's fought everyone, he put himself in the hardest test, and he's willing to go again and put himself in another very hard test, mate. Well, it should be now the hardest one of his career. So it's still a lot to do on it. Again, I don't want to say too much to upset all these people off, but there's still a lot to do behind the closed doors. But it's definitely the fight that we want, and it's definitely the fight we're looking to pursue.
Is there a big risk going into this rematch? Because to put it sort of, you know, in the most, you know, nicest way possible, in the you know, don't want to be harsh here, but if Joyce does end up losing this sort of this rematch again, I struggle to sort of see a career of him at the sort of the world level at heavyweight. So is there sort of a big risk taking this fight where, you know, there potentially may not be a future after this if he does end up losing again?
No two ways about it. This is an absolute must-win fight. Right. Credit to Adam for getting unbelievable contracting that we can even rematch Zhang. This is what experience and expertise in sport is important, and why a good management team is very important, and also a good promoter, because George Warren's a big part of that too. But it's massive. This is everything. This is everything. And that's why I think you're going to see the best Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce performs at his best when the odds are against him and there's pressure because he doesn't feel it. Maybe we took things too lightly last time. Maybe we came into like, maybe Joe just had an off day. Maybe the tactics went right. There's a lot that could have been against him, but believe me, you'll get the best Joe Joyce when the odds are stacked against him.
Definitely.
And listen, I might get a lot of shit for this, but it's true. If Joe Joyce's eye didn't close up, even as bad as everything was, he would have won that fight. Sang through about 4 shots in the last 2 rounds because he was shattered, and his feet were as square as a cube, like walking straight on. He would have got stopped, but I don't want to take any credit away from Zhang because you know what? He had a game plan. It worked. He won fair and square. He's a great fighter. He's a good man. He's got a great, nicest team in the world, and he's a really nice guy too. But believe me, we're going to beat Zhilei Zhang. When I say we, Joe will beat him, but sometimes it feels like you're in there when you get scared and nervous in that before you fight. But especially when you're living with them and whatnot. But yeah, we'll get the job done this time, and then we're straight back in the final for a title. But the thing is, when people give criticism about taking a rematch, what do you want? You moan that heavyweights and fighters are not fighting each other, then they fight each other. Oh, you shouldn't do that. What do you fucking want? Like, do you want him to go and rematch Hammer again, or do you want to see a good fight? You want to see good fights, don't you? So go in there and rematch Zhang. Also, how are we ever going to get a world title shot if we don't rematch Zhang? Who is going to get to fight Joe Joyce? He's a nightmare for anyone. So we have to go and do it. And also, we know how to get it right. Like, so it's simple as that, really. But it just annoys me a little bit because when I see people, and I'm talking about notable boxing figures, criticizing it, it's like, hold on a minute. He did an interview the other day saying how none of them are fighting each other and they're avoiding each other. At least he goes in there and fights people. And then when it doesn't go his way, you all criticize him and you wonder why people don't take risky fights. Like, come on. I've seen these people defending people who have failed drugs tests and stuff. Yeah, you're going to go against someone for taking a hard fight. Oh, it's honestly, sometimes people in boxing, it just winds me up. I can't even talk about it, but we're gonna see how it all goes. There's a lot to do, and to be honest, more Adam's side than mine. But
because I was going to ask you about that because when sort of it happens a lot at sort of the top level, you know, when you have these top fighters fight, and you know when it doesn't end up their way after sort of the post fight, the fallout of the Joe Joyce versus Zhilei Zhang fight. I think every single man and his dog had an opinion on it. And everyone said, Joe Joyce should do this, Joe Joyce should do that, he needs to do this, he needs to do that. How do you deal with that when you see, I don't know if you must see it all.
Mate, I can't even go to my barber shop without being told what I should and shouldn't be doing. I can't go around my mum's friend's house without being told what I should and should be doing. Like, my mum's friend who's watched 2 boxing matches in her whole life has got an opinion of why and how Joe should fight Zhang in the rematch. Like, do you know what? Like, you've got to trust your own expertise and your own knowledge and your team as well. And that's the people I'd rather listen to rather than someone that hasn't spent a minute in Joe Joyce's training camp, that doesn't know him personally, doesn't know us personally. How can you possibly give me an opinion on how we should approach a fight? It's like me telling Man United how to play Barcelona in a Champions League final. Well, funny enough, I'm not the manager. I've never spent a day with any of them. I don't know how good they are. So how can I tell them how to prepare? And what have I done in my life to tell them how to prepare for it? It's like me telling an electrician how to rewire something. I don't, how can I tell him how to do his job? Like,
Yeah,
let people who know what they're doing do what they got to do. Like, but you know what? Listen, it's sport. People, it's opinions. It's based off of opinions. I guess it's what gets people watching and whatnot. And boxing is the one sport in the world where everyone is an expert.
yeah,
So, you know, I get it, but
yeah.
it's just a bit annoying sometimes, I guess.
Definitely. Do you sort of look back after the sort of the Zhang fight, taking Zhang as an opponent? Do you ever look back at? Do you ever regret taking that fight in between? Because there potentially could have been a fight of Tyson Fury, a stadium fight in the summer. You know, as people were saying. Do you ever look at that and think, have any regrets that you took the Zhang fight, or I think you said to me before, if
Um,
you, yeah,
yeah, I
go
don't
on.
really regret. I don't really regret. No, I don't. Listen, obviously, it's never nice to lose a fight, even more so when you're in an amazing position. We're still in a good position, and we've got a chance to rectify, haven't we? So, but I'm just being real, man. Like, I don't think Fury would have fought with Joe until we lost anyway. I just don't think he would have. Like, we're with the same promoter, same TV network, and he was not entertaining it,
Yeah,
and he had no one else to fight, and he was so desperate to get out. So why wasn't you trying to fight Joe then? You know, so and I don't base Joe's career off other people.
yeah,
Because Tyson's inactive again. He might even retire again. Who knows? Like, you can't base someone else's career, especially an elite fighter. You've got to make a career for yourself. And listen, if you believe you beat someone, you should be fighting them. Joe gets paid very well by BT and Frank Warren. So you've got to be in hard fights. Hard fights. You're at elite level. You know, it ain't about fighting Jermaine Franklin. It ain't about fighting people like that. It's about having tough fights against proven world level guys. Zhilei Zhang should be undefeated, yeah, and
yeah,
should have been IBF mandatory, so we shouldn't even been fighting him anyway.
yeah,
Like, but obviously didn't get the nod in the night. Whatever, it is what it is. But um, at that level, you've got to be fighting hard people. Listen,
yeah,
I don't want Joe to fight for a world title. I want him to be in the best preparation to actually win it. If you go and fight Jermaine Franklin, for example, I'm just using him as an example. Much as
yeah,
he's a tough and decent fighter, they ain't going to prepare you for the top level guys. And I'm just being real, especially when you're coming off a career best win against Parker. Nothing in Joe's career suggested that we should take a knockover. You take
yeah,
knockovers if you're not confident in yourself, if you've been out the ring for like for a very long period of time, or maybe started with a new trainer.
yeah,
What other reason would we not back ourselves at world level? That's the only reason why I think you would fight a cannon fodder
yeah.
because you don't back yourself at world level.
And does that then show credit to Joe Joyce that listen, he's taken a lot of Zhang, but I want to jump straight in there. I'm not interested in having, you just said there is a name as Jermaine Franklin. So is that credit to Joe Joyce's mentality that he wants to jump in there straight away and rectify that?
It should be, but we work in a weird world where people have weird opinions and weird thoughts. So everyone's got their opinion. You know, some people are saying it from a bad place. They're jealous or because he's with someone else and whatnot. It's not an honest opinion from their heart. So, but you know, it is what it is. I'm not really. I do get a bit annoyed at opinions. I won't lie. Not when they're about me or anything like that. It's more like when I see what Joe puts himself through and the fact that he accepts
Yeah,
hard fights and he's taken challenge after challenge with the odds stacked against him. And now you want to criticize a guy. Like, that doesn't add up to me. You should be encouraging that kind of behavior because we want to see the best fights as boxing fans, don't we? So, and you want to see
100%,
people challenge each other. Why would
definitely.
Anthony Joshua have a hard fight knowing that, like, if he doesn't work out, he's just going to get criticized for it?
Yeah,
You should be praising AJ for fighting Usyk. You should be praising for him for going in a rematch as well. And I'm
Is-
saying that as, and I know that Joyce is his
yeah,
rival, but it's true. You should be praising that, not knocking it
yeah.
down. He went in there
Is,
against the best and challenged himself.
is that just the attitude of the UK sort of mentality though? Like I say this, you said this there about sort of we live in a weird world where Usyk took if AJ wouldn't have taken the sort of Usyk rematch, it would have been he's ducking him, but then he took it, and then people say um, oh, why did you take that fight again? You should have had one before. Is it just sort of hard to deal with that sort of UK mentality? I think it's like a
We
UK and
haven't
boxing
got
mentality.
time. We haven't got time for all this. One
Yeah,
before, like we do that for someone that's lacking confidence. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying there. We are not lacking confidence. Joe Joyce is not lacking confidence. He wants to fight
yeah,
Zhang because he knows he can beat him, and not just beat him well. What are we taking an interim fight for? Because we don't
100%.
believe in ourselves to build the confidence and momentum. No, we believe he backs himself. We believe in himself. More importantly, his trainer also believes and backs him, which is way more than what I think. Adam believes and backs him. We all, Jess, Harry, we all believe in back Joe, and we know that he can do it in good fashion in a rematch. So that's why we're going to go and do it. And also, Joe is 37 years of age.
Yeah,
He isn't 18 or 19. We have to get on with it. And Joe has operated at a level his whole life as an Olympian, in the World Championships, in the European Championships, WSB, and it's always been the highest level. He doesn't get motivated to fight Christian Hammer too, without being disrespectful to Christian Hammer, but it's the truth. He gets motivated by the big nights. He wants to be boxing sold out arenas. He wants to be earning good money. He
yeah,
wants to be maintain his big name status. And it's
100%.
too right, so he should.
Absolutely, mate. And we're sort of just moving on as we sort of close off this interview. Another guy I wanted to ask you about, sort of rumours about his next fight, Florian Marku, another big ticket seller. Hasn't sort of been a little bit inactive this year, but it'd be good to sort of see him back out towards the sort of third quarter of 2023.
Yeah, so he had hand surgery, which was really big hand surgery as well. It went
Yeah,
like, oh, just keyhole, a couple of weeks out here, a couple of months out here. It was like really, really bad actually. So it took a while to heal into a good punch again. He's looking unbelievable in the gym. Been spending a bit of time up in Sheffield. He's been looking great. Um, yeah, he'll have some fight news in the next couple of weeks. He did have a fight date already, but he had to move it because of a date clash with Grant that he already had. So we had to move that. But yeah, we'll expect some news on him in the next couple of weeks.
and just last one, Lerrone Richards. When sort of are we expecting a massive fight for him sort of soon?
Yeah, yeah. So we had a nice little tick over on one of your boys' shows.
Yeah,
Thanks for accommodating
absolutely.
us. It was really, really, really nice. Really good event actually. Really professional as well. I really liked it actually. Um, but yeah, again, I can't really say anything because there's still bits and pieces for Adam to do to get it over the line. But when he does, I'm sure the promoter that puts on his next fight will announce. But it'll be a good fight for him, and I'm sure one the fans will be pleased with.
100%. Well, Shane Watson, just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to speak to me. It's been a good sort of a good, nice long interview, mate. Good sort of breaking down
Yeah,
everything to do with sort of Joe Joyce and boxing opinions as always. I appreciate it, mate. Thank you for your
yeah.
time.
Take care, mate. Take care. See you later.
Thank you. Top man. Thank you.